Hello gamers, this is Elwood and Kim from ThatMomentIn.com. Welcome to GameWart. Up next, our review of Rain World. Rain World is a 2017 survival platformer developed by Boston-based independent game studio Videocult, about a young slugcat that has been separated from its family. In a journey to reunite, it must trek through the predatory and brutal environments of an industrial wasteland. What is a slugcat? Just like the name implies, it's a part slug, part cat creature, which is somewhere in the middle of the food chain. It needs to hibernate underground before the destructive rainstorm cycle arrives, and it needs to maintain a certain level of food to make sure that it can make it through its adventures and said hibernation. While slugcats are predators to bats in this world, it is also a prey to many colorful creatures. Slugcats aren't only cute, but as the developers describe it, they are delicious as well.
Rain World is another of those games which falls somewhere between the likes of Limbo and Super Meat Boy. This is a brutal game, to say the least, and possibly one of the most downer experiences that we've had since we did the double bill of both Limbo and Inside back to back. This is a game that is certainly not going to appeal to everyone, and we'll certainly go into that over the course of this review. As we mentioned already, you're playing as the slugcats. You are basically the bottom of the food chain. The only thing that that is slightly below you is bats, which you consume for your food source to allow you to hibernate. And this game is just built around this idea of scavenging around this post-apocalyptic environment to find food so you can hibernate, and it's just this eat-sleep mentality that fuels it, which is so unique, but at the same time, because it's an independent title, it's got no fear of being absolutely brutally tough at the same time. As if you ever wanted to have a game which is like giving you the realistic version of how the food chain works, and I would think Rain World would be a pretty much good example, because while you are obviously on the lookout for tasty bats and popcorn plants to consume, everything else in this world will try and eat you, creating many gamer nightmares for myself. But Kim, I mean, for yourself, I mean, where do you stand on this, just as an opening thought, really?
Well, I mean, I was super excited for Rain World. I love games with brutally cute environments. I love the idea of slugcats. I love what they did. I love the world they built. I think that it's so innovative and so dreary all at the same time. The only thing is this game is also very abstract. It doesn't really tell you what to do the moment you go in, and it takes a lot of patience to really learn what you need to do. Aside from this, weird holographic creature that looks like a shrimp or something sitting on the top, where it starts like showing you and guiding you where you need to go with arrows and random symbols, and you kind of get a knack of what to do, and when you need to hibernate, when you start hearing the rain sound in the background. But it's something about it is so detailed and so beautiful all at the same time, because they build this thing where you need to build in your cycle. Like, your cycle will keep moving up as you are able to pass through certain levels and hibernate and make it to hibernation and go back. The key is you need to find all these places that you can hibernate, and you need to be able to run away from all these creatures that are after you. And the funny part is these creatures are all in different colors. They're so colorful, and yet like you don't know you're in danger until they come by you, and then you're like, oh my god, I wish I can go, and then you need to learn to grasp onto things, and it becomes all like a reflex and just dexterity and that sort of type of game, and it can become a very frustrating experience.
Well, certainly so. I found personally that the controls felt largely broken, and at the same time I've heard other people justify this by saying, no, this is an accurate representation because life is supposed to be tough for your character. And I'm thinking, well, there's tough and giving us some kind of fighting chance, because the large majority of your gameplay is going to be spent either running away from things or hiding. You can pick up a stick, and there are other creatures that you can sort of team up with called scavengers. And by giving them pearls, they will actually team up with you and help you defend against some of the smaller animals, such as the disco-coloured lizards which are one of the first creatures that you do encounter. And it's, as Kim said, it's this weird world that's been invented. On one hand, it's this sort of world of darkness that we saw in the likes of Inside and Limbo, and at the same time, it's got patches of colour. I mean, we've got, as I said, these neon creatures that are trying to consume you. And the actual creator, George Jacobson, this is one of his first games. I mean, he taught himself how to animate the sprites himself. Seems to be a running theme whenever we talk about independent games, is these ideas these guys go off and learning it for themselves. And it was inspired in part by the fact that when he was an exchange student in South Korea, he felt this feeling of foreignness, and he sort of translates it into this game because you're constantly in the strange world. You don't know what anything means, and it's about figuring it out for yourself. You have to find places to hibernate, you have to find food sources, and there's no real sort of guidance on which way you're supposed to go. It's very open to the player how you choose to explore this world. And I know this is going to be something that's going to like instantly scream a must-have to some gamers while leave others frustrated. As we said, the same way that like Super Meat Boy, Dark Souls, it's that sort of game. It's about really beating the player down unrelentingly, and for some that's not going to be, it's going to be clear really within the first few hours whether this is going to be your sort of game or if it's going to be one that you're just going to perhaps put on the shelf to return to when you're in a more challenged frame of mind, shall we say. I know for myself, I think by the end of this sort of playthrough, I was done. Didn't see the end of the game, but I think that for my own personal gaming sanity, that I had to just sort of call it a day. I just was getting too beat down by the bleakness of this world. But Kim, you're still sticking with it, I'm right in saying.
Yeah, well, I like this world, but you're right about having the mindset of having to be able to go through with it. I think that you brought up a really good point, is that it is very reflective because they start the story with a young slugcat, and you have this beautiful animation of him being separated from his family. And it fits the scenario perfectly because it's kind of symbolizes someone's trek into a foreign world. They don't have the protection they need. They need to learn as they go and work through where they need to be. And the slugcats can go through little hidey holes, but they're so nimble through many things. But then there are also, I guess the broken controls could be explained for various, like, I can understand, like, I never thought it was, I think the point is, it's not that you don't it's that it's broken. It's that it's a learning process that you need to be able to, hold on or react to, pressing certain buttons. So you're holding on to a rod a certain way in this industrial wasteland as you're shimmying through one side of the map to the other and going through certain areas. And, you got these symbols popping around all over the place. And, it's like a big puzzle. The world is this big puzzle that you need to solve. And in certain ways, you can interpret it as gibberish or just something that, you really want to see further and see where our little slugcat gets to, where we can take it, and will it ever meet its family,
I guess so. I mean, and you can see when you look at the inspirations where they're drawing inspiration from. I mean, you can see obvious references to like old school animations such as like the Time Masters, especially in some of the creatures which are just horrible tentacle things lurking below the depths, threatening to consume you. And least said about the leeches, the better, really, as that's just another nightmare altogether. And constantly when you're reading all the press releases for this, and they describe this game as being like you're living the life of a rat in Manhattan. I mean, the fact that the rat knows how to find food and to hide, but it doesn't understand why the subway is the way it is. It just runs very much on its nature, these basic natures, and it's very much the same for our slugcat. He's not a complex character. He has his very set purposes and the very sort of nature-driven sort of purposes. This desire to eat and eat, sleep, and not get consumed is basically what it boils down to. And yes, I mean, there's obviously that story of the slugcat trying to find his family, but when you're playing the game, it doesn't feel like, oh, I have to get to this part so I can get the next part of the story. It's very much, oh, I need to get to this next hibernation area so I can live to see another day. I can explore a different part of this world. These seem to be more goals than obviously the initial story that's put in place there. I think it does help the fact it's such an adorable little creature. I think if it was, that's always the sort of the key thing when you have games like the same as with Super Meat Boy. If it's not an adorable sprite, then it's hard for the player to really care and to push on through when they're being relentlessly beaten down. I mean, this is a game where you go into this purpose and you think, oh, I've got to jump from poles and platforms, and then you realize that, oh, wait a minute, we're going to turn one of the poles into a creature that will also eat you. So just when you get comfortable with this game, it pulls the carpet from under your feet, and we introduce something meaner and more of a swine, shall we say, to keep this clean, to really ruin your day. So, and a lot of these creatures are one-hit kills, so I don't know, maybe keep a second controller, because you may find yourself breaking one of them just in moments of frustration that this game will no doubt instill within you. And for those reasons, I couldn't help but believe it's the sort of game that's going to appeal to those like hardcore gamers who like their challenges like at the extreme level. People like Dark Souls, Super Meat Boy. Sorry to keep reusing those same references, but those are sort of like the key games that you think of when you play this. At the same time, it's the sort of game that you know that YouTube celebrities are going to love to squeak and squall over, while they obviously pull stupid voices about how hard and difficult this game is, and it will become this sort of spectacle game, and perhaps it will find a life in that respect. But for just general Joe average gamers like myself, yes, it was an experience, but it's not one that I want to prioritize as my main gaming experience. And it's one that perhaps now I've experienced it, I don't feel the urge to finish. I've experienced it and got what I felt I was going to get from this game, and finishing this game is really not going to give me anything more than perhaps just additional frustration and broken equipment to surround my apartment with.
Yeah, but I mean, I know it is very challenging, and that's why it's not suitable for everyone. And you're right, like this is for definitely hardcore gamers. You know, if you're a casual gamer, you might pick it up once in a while. You might not really care enough to keep going, and you know, especially when there are other games that, you know, maybe a lot more enjoyable in a much happier environment. I guess that for me, I'm one of those gamers which somehow, I don't know, over the years, I've realized that I'm one of those people who really enjoy challenging games that really challenge the limit. And while it is frustrating, the idea of beating it and overcoming all these obstacles and seeing the end is so rewarding, or at least you really hope it's going to be rewarding. And that feeling that when you finish something like this is immense, you know? So, I don't know. I mean, it's not right for everybody, but so that's really all I have to say.
I know. I just playing this game, it just really makes me want another Oddworld game, another Abe's Odyssey. More than anything, I don't want to really care whether Slugcat meets his family or not. That probably sounds really cruel and harsh. I mean, what can possibly happen? Yes, he meets his family and lives happily ever after. I mean, I don't know. There's just not enough there for me to want to push myself through it to meet that ending. Yes, the world is very nice and very pretty to explore, and there's plenty of interesting things and ideas being explored here. Certainly, graphic-wise, the fluidity of this animation, how it looks, you wouldn't assume this is an indie title, and to that I give them their credit. But again, we're just coming back to the fact that this really isn't a game for everyone. I think pick it up, play it for a couple of hours, and I think at the end of those 2 hours, you will know if this is for you or not.
Yeah, and that's the perk of Steam. But you know, the deal is that, you know, they did create a very nice open world. They created really grasped the concept of discovery, just discovering the world around you. And, you know, on top of that, you know, I just really like the detail that they've put into it. Like, and plus they really like took that survival aspect and platforming aspect and really, you know, made it a very core control of the game. And, you know, for what they were trying to achieve, they didn't, you know, misadvertise. They really gave you what they said they would give you, which is you know, more than what I have, you know, I've seen games that have given you descriptions that really don't match what they're trying to deliver. So for that, you know, there is a lot of credit to be given to them. But for the sake of time, what would be your score?
I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. And that's just purely on the basis that I know there's people out there who are going to absolutely adore this, and at the same time there's going to be people who absolutely hate this. It's certainly a unique experience, and for that it deserves its credit, and there's a lot of things going for it. It's just the actual gameplay mechanics which just really did not sit with myself. But I think 3 out of 5. I think you're either going to go one way or another with this game. There is no middle ground with this. That you were fine with this. This is a solid 3 out of 5 for myself.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go a little higher at 3.5 out of 5. Okay. Find more game reviews at thatmomentin.com. Like us on Facebook to get gaming news every single day.